All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us. Man, speaking of the NBA, Philadelphia just putting a shellacking on Toronto right now, up 90-67 with about 10 minutes to go. So Philadelphia's showing a little bit of fortitude. The NBA playoffs, obviously, in full force right now. The big news, Kevin Durant. We're trying to figure out what is going to happen to that injury. We'll get to that and much, much more. And what better person to have on right now than our hoops guru, Jamieson Welsh from Drive Time Sports. Jamieson, how are you?
I'm doing well, Brian. Thanks for having me as always.
What's up, JMO?
How's it going?
What up, Sharp? How's it going, man?
Doing well.
So so now we've gotten all the help. You guys want to see how you guys are doing now? Go ahead. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. How are you doing, Jamieson? But let's keep asking Jamieson how he's doing.
I'm doing well. I mean, this is the craziest part of the NBA time because we have the draft combine next week. We have the draft lottery next week. We're going to have at least one Game 7, probably two. And there's a good chance we'll have a third Game 7. If I had to put money on it, I probably would. That we're going to have a 3 Game 7s on Sunday.
Oh, that's awesome.
Great time of the year.
Gosh, when was the last time we had 3 Game 7s in one day in multiple sports? That's insane. All right, so I want to start with the L.A. Lakers, if we can. There's rumors circulating that Kurt Rambis was going to be forced on Ty Lue as a lead assistant co-head coach, and that they were going to force Jason Kidd onto Lue's staff as well. And I guess some 3-year offer was put on the table so that Kidd would take over when LeBron retired. Is there any truth to this rumor, and is that why Ty rejected the offer?
There's a lot of details there. I've heard some of it. I didn't hear about Rambis being on staff. I heard them forcing Kidd being on staff, basically a 3-year deal for under the money he got paid in Cleveland. Like, that's the thing. He got paid $7 million a year in Cleveland. The Lakers offer him $6 million. And the years with 3 years is kind of low for a guy that's the best candidate available right now. So, yeah, I don't blame Ty Lue for passing that up. I really don't. But also, here's the thing, too. If you really want to go get a guy, go get a guy. If they offer him a 4th year at the same money he was making in Cleveland, he takes the job. Like, they were playing around, and then the whole adding Jason Kidd on to the staff, that's a bit much. Most coaches, when you pay them that kind of money, they should be able to have their own staff. Especially coaches that have won a championship, they should have their own staff. So I don't blame them for turning it down. At the same time, the Lakers are in a really interesting spot because there's not a whole lot of coaches available that are better than Ty Lue that are available. So I don't know what they're going to do. I was very curious to see what they're going to do going forward.
I think it's kind of cool that he didn't want to be a rent-a-coach for LeBron James. Do you think, and I guess that Jeannie Buss is getting quite a bit of pressure right now, do you think that the Lakers should trade LeBron James at this point?
No, I think they should sell the team. I think she needs to sell the team. That's the thing. She doesn't know what she's doing, and I don't think anyone in the front office knows what they're doing. So in that case, I think she needs to sell the team. That would be the best option. Trading LeBron James would make you very incompetent, and that means you wouldn't be getting any free agents going forward for a very long time. You'd have to get lucky and win the draft lottery a couple times and basically get a couple of guys that are number 1 or number 2 picks that pan out very well, and that's not as easy as it seems. I mean, Philly tanked 6 lotteries and got 2 guys that both have major flaws, even though they're all-stars. So that's not an easy fix at all. If you trade LeBron James, this whole thing goes to smoke. It's really bad right now. If LeBron says, I want out, this thing officially hits danger zone, and that you cannot have that.
If you're just joining us, Jamieson Welsh from Drive Time Sports, our hoops guru. So what does it say about Kyrie Irving, his legacy, and the Boston Celtics in general, that it's another flop in the playoffs for Kyrie Irving? What does that say?
Kyrie Irving hit one of the biggest shots in NBA history, so his legacy is just fine. I think the Boston situation, he is partly to blame, but part of the blame is on Danny Ainge. This team wasn't built that great. It has a lot of talent on it, but the talent didn't necessarily mesh. And a lot of guys needed the ball a lot to be effective. And the one thing I never like is having too many guys in contract situations. As good as the team was talent-wise on paper, you cannot have Rozier who's playing for a contract, Jaylen Brown who's playing for a contract. You have Lamar's twin playing for a contract. You can't have them splitting minutes with other guys and not knowing their full role. It's a very dangerous thing. But the biggest crime Danny Ainge made was this. He tried to play both sides of the fence, and you can't do it. You either have to go all in and contend, or you have to play our young guys and build for the future. It's almost impossible to do both. Very rarely does doing both work out, and we saw here it just didn't work out. But that roster was not constructed that well at all.
Do you think they're going to be making any big moves in the offseason?
I think Kyrie leaves, and I think that Horford has a player option, I believe, as well. So they're going to be a different team next year. I mean, I think Rozier leaves. I think the Morris twin leaves. Hayward stays. Smart stays. Tatum stays. Outside of that, nothing would really surprise you. They're going to be very different going forward because they do have a lot of assets. Their biggest thing is this. If Kyrie leaves, you can't trade for Anthony Davis because who is he going to play with that he wants to stay there for? So
Right.
It's a very weird dynamic. And I think Danny Ainge, he made the best trade of NBA history, or at least top 3 of it all time.
Yeah.
However, when you look back at it, he should have utilized those assets a lot better than what he did. And that's the reason why they have not gone to the finals during this time period.
So the big story in the NBA, of course, is Kevin Durant. We know that the Golden State Warriors were able to get by in a huge game, Game 5 in Golden State against the Houston Rockets. But again, Kevin Durant injury. What do you know about this injury? What are they saying? Will he be back Game 6 on the road in Houston?
No, it's a mild calf strain. There's no way he's playing tomorrow. It's a game. If he does come back, I'd be surprised if he played a Game 7. I really would, especially in the second round. It's one thing with the finals or conference finals. That's one thing. But a 7th game in the second round, I don't know. I don't know if they need him. As crazy as it sounds, they have Steph. They have Clay. As we all saw last night, once he got hurt, Steph went off. I don't know what happened or what that meant, but it was just very ironic that the moment, KD went down, Steph started hitting shots and start making layups. So they have enough talent to get by Houston. As good as Houston has been this year, the way that offense is, that trick-or-treat offense where you shoot a lot of threes and whatnot, that's beatable. Outside of Harden, they don't have anyone that really strikes fear into you. Eric Gordon can get hot, but you can live and die with him. You can live and die with him taking a lot of shots. You're not going to be fearful of that. Chris Paul is not the same player he once was. He has lost a few steps, still very intelligent, but the athleticism and the quickness is long gone. The Warriors are still going to win this series, whether it's in 6 or 7, but the injury to Durant is a week-long injury. If it does go to Game 7, it wouldn't surprise me if he came back, but that's a very, very tricky injury because that injury can lead to a torn Achilles. So I expect them to rest him, and he comes back sometime next week.
Without Durant, let's assume that the Warriors beat the Rockets and they play either the Nuggets or the Blazers. If Durant doesn't play in that series, are they susceptible to either of those teams?
They are, but they're still the favorites. We've seen both the Nuggets and the Blazers both look suspect in these playoffs. The Spurs took the Nuggets to 7, and literally were a couple plays away from losing that series. So let's not act like the Nuggets are some great team. They're still a very young team. They haven't been thus far. Portland's good, but they have a lot of holes in their roster as well. So it wouldn't surprise me if KD had missed the first game or 2 of the following series if the Warriors were up 2-0 in that. It really wouldn't. They're that good. They have a lot of experience. Their only issue is depth. When they start Andre Iguodala, their depth is really, really short, and that's a huge problem because, remember, their biggest thing was strength in numbers, strength in numbers, strength in numbers, strength in numbers. Now it's pretty much, hey, we have a solid 6, maybe 7 guys, and we're going to roll with that. And that's been the change, and their bench has been very subpar during this playoff.
Yeah, I think I've seen that their bench is averaging, about 9 points a game, 10 points a game?
Once you put Iguodala in the starting lineup, that's pretty much about it. Looney's a guy that will get you some putbacks here and there. Livingston will get you a jumper here and there, but you don't have a guy, once you start Iguodala, you don't have a guy on the bench that's going to give you much.
Now, the East is all 3 of those teams in the East are very, very deep. The Bucks are deep, the Sixers are deep, and the Raptors are deep. Do you think that even with a healthy Durant, that the East has a chance against the Warriors this year, assuming the Warriors make the championship game this year?
The Milwaukee Bucks are the best team out East by far. I think that's not even. I think they're the best team, top to bottom, coach, players, etc. They're the best team. They're a machine. What they did to Boston was a clinic. They shoot a lot of threes, they defend very well, and they have the MVP. They remind me, not necessarily makeup-wise, but they remind me of the hunger that the 04 Pistons had. When they played the Lakers, everyone before the series thought Lakers would win 4-1, 4-2. blah, blah, blah. Once game one came, you saw a team that was very energetic, very athletic, very physical, and next thing you know, the series is over 5 games later. So the Bucks remind me a lot of it's a hungry young team, and watch out. I think they're the best team out east, and if they do get to the finals, which I expect they will, the Warriors will not have an easy way with them.
And they haven't had Brogdon either this entire playoffs.
He just came back. The thing about the Bucks is this. They shoot a lot of threes, but they all come in rhythm. Very rarely do you see a guy go one-on-one and check up a three. Everything comes in a rhythm. So it's coming off the swing, coming off some sort of action. And that's more key than anything else. A lot of teams come up and jack up a bunch of threes. But for it to come within your system, and when a guy gets his feet set and he knows when and where it's coming from, that, to me, is why the Bucks are so dangerous.
He is Jamieson Welsh from Drive Time Sports, our hoops guru. If you have a question for him in regards to the NBA playoffs or anything basketball, give us a buzz. 702-257-5396. Again, that number to call if you have a basketball question for Jamieson. 257-5396. Off topic a little bit here. It's still a basketball story. We're getting Mike Babcock from TMZ Sports going to be joining us here in just a few minutes. But this is a crazy story, man. Dennis Rodman, he's made friends with Kim Jong-un. He does some crazy things, he's a crazy dude. But I don't think he's a bad guy. But there's a video that has surfaced. Dennis Rodman in a yoga clothing store, stealing. It's just, it makes, if the guy's got money, it just makes absolutely, apparently Rodman grabbed a $2,500, at least $2,500 from what I'm reading of clothing at a yoga. First of all, how do you spend that much money at a clothing shop? That doesn't make any sense to me at all. But this is really bad. The owner says that the employees working that day say everyone in Rodman's group reeked of alcohol. They walked in there completely drunk and hammered. And I guess this is a pretty popular shop at Newport Beach. Selena Gomez and Kobe Bryant apparently have been there. The problem here for Dennis Rodman is that there's clearly video. I've watched the video. He just goes in there and steals. What do you make of this story? It's just bizarre.
There's a handful of individuals that no matter what they do, you'll never be surprised of whatever they come up with. Dennis Rodman is in that category. He's one of those guys that it's one of those things where you're just not surprised. I mean, you just never know. I mean, he's a guy that, he has a wild life. He's lived a wild life. He really doesn't care about what people think or what people say. So it doesn't shock me as a surprise. I'm kind of disappointed because, like you said, he does have money or he should have money. But this is not.
He should have money, exactly. I think that it's just one of those things where Dennis Rodman's one of those guys who just likes to test the limits sometimes. Get himself in trouble, create some chaos for his own life. There's, a lot of people like that.
I'm like that.
I think that's Dennis Rodman. And this is a prime example. Do you agree with that, Jamieson?
Partly. I think he does like attention. But also, when you do drugs and you drink, you're going to do stuff you shouldn't be doing.
Right.
The owner of the shop says that Dennis Rodman began distracting employees while a woman that was with him in a long-sleeved green shirt began stuffing clothing that he was giving to her in her purse. At one point, the woman hides behind Rodman as she tucks a shirt away, and Rodman is helping her in the process and handing stuff over to her, and there's video of it. And I understand what you're saying, Jameson. There's always going to be people out there that are going to be getting in trouble no matter what. But I don't think – has Rodman ever been accused of stealing something from somebody? I can't recall.
Not off top. I mean, I'd have to look through everything. I mean, he's done a lot. I mean, since the Bad Boy Pistons days to now, that's a long list of activities. I'd have to look off top. I don't remember him stealing stuff. But, man, yeah, it's quite interesting. It really is because he's a guy that – he'll need to steal. I mean, he's a guy that you can get stuff for free just by taking a picture. So it doesn't make sense. But, again, if you're doing something you shouldn't be doing, then these things start to add up. I mean, if you're drinking or if you took something you have no business taking, these things happen.
James, I want to talk about UNLV. If they don't sign David Jenkins if David Jenkins does, after losing Caleb Grill and JTT transferring, and probably a couple other guys transferring. If they don't sign David Jenkins, if he doesn't transfer UNLV, can they win even 10 games next year with their current roster?
Well, would Jenkins even be eligible? That's the thing. He's not a grad transfer, is he?
I don't know.
He's a sophomore. You're right. He's a sophomore. He's not immediately eligible.
Yeah, he wouldn't be eligible. The key is this: he would be a very good get, and you want to get guys like that in the stable, just to create good culture and have competitive practices so guys are getting better. However, the key is this. You have players in your hometown that you need to lock up. Like, getting other guys are fine as well, but there's other guys that are just as talented, if not more, that you're passing up, and that's an issue. There's a kid named Taron Todd who's a 6'4" point guard, and he's on an official visit to Cincinnati right now, and he has not gotten offered by UNLV. Now, if Cincinnati can offer a kid, UNLV can too.
So you might be aware of this. We had Michael Avenatti on the show yesterday, and my first question to him was UNLV basketball. Mm-hmm. And he responded, and he said that he has 100% proof. I'm kind of paraphrasing here, right? He said he had 100% proof that McCoy received at least, what did he say, JD? Several payments, right? Several payments from Nike.
He said 2 different payments at least in the tens of thousands of dollars from Nike.
What do you make of that?
He was McDonald's All-American. He was a top 10 to 15 kid his whole prep life. That's kind of the norm. I don't think anyone would be surprised. And if you look at his top list of schools, they're all Nike schools. Whether UNLV really wasn't even on the list. UNLV was a late rise. It was Michigan State, San Diego State, a couple other schools. But yeah, for the most part, it was mostly Nike schools on his list, and he played on Nike AAU teams. So that's not a surprise at all. Like, it's not a shock or a surprise. That's kind of how business gets done.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think, though, that UNLV or Marvin – that's the key question here, because do you think UNLV knew or Marvin Menzies knew? Because according to Avenatti, he believes UNLV knew what was going on.
It's not about what they knew. It's what you can prove. And that's the situation with all this stuff. We can know everything, but how can you prove that they know? That's the thing. And finding that proof and being able to prove that without any doubt is the biggest thing. And that's going to be very hard for whomever tries to do that. That's why these cases very rarely happen.
So when we were talking about R. Kelly, because he represents someone in an R. Kelly civil suit, and we asked, do you think R. Kelly is ever going to see the light of day? He said the chances of R. Kelly seeing the light of day and ever getting out of jail is the same as one of the top college basketball programs not cheating. Would you agree with that statement? I thought it was kind of funny, but do you agree with it? Do you think it's factually accurate?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I see what he's saying, but here's the thing. When it comes to college sports in general, and football is way worse than basketball, by the way, way worse, especially down south. But that's a different story for a different day. We can do a whole show on that. College sports, people are always going to find a way to do what they have to do. No, just in general. Like college sports in the South is like religion. Like college football down south is religion. So whatever it takes to have a good team, to field a good competitive team, they're going to do. Even the bad schools, the schools that win 6 games a year, they're spending money as well. So it's not like it's just the big schools. No, everyone's doing it. It's just one of those things where it's a known thing. It's a known situation. I'm going to put it this way. Brian, you talk to a lot of guys. You rep a lot of guys. The next time you see someone at Lifetime or wherever and they play college ball, ask them if they ever took something. Or ask them if they ever received a benefit. I'm not saying on air. We can talk off air, but just next time you run into somebody.
No, I'll probably say it on air. That's fine. Yeah, I'll probably say it.
No, you got to do that. I'm just saying. Just go ahead. I mean, it's a known thing. It's something that it's common knowledge. I'm more surprised when someone didn't get something. I'm more surprised by that because, I mean, there's 4 stars that are getting stuff. So, yeah, it's just how things go.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in a perfect world we'd like it if everyone – look, I'll say one thing about Avenatti, and I agree with him on this one. He thinks players should get paid. There should be some sort of understanding with the NCAA, and that's what he thinks, and I think that should happen as well. And let it be a fair playing field for everybody. I would totally be okay with that. But I think this is getting into some interesting territory. Say what you want about Michael Avenatti. I believe in the long run this could be good for the NCAA. How do you see it?
Well, here's the thing. They are going to have to find a medium because someone's going to come out of left field and provide a different alternative for these guys. That's the thing I think NCAA needs to worry about because, someone right now is thinking, hey, how can we provide a situation where these guys are able to get paid, not like pros. No one's going to pay them $10 million a year, but how can these guys get $1 million or somewhere close to it for a year of playing before they go to the pros?
And LeVar Ball tried to do that with the JBA.
Right, but to a lesser extent, correct. But also, how can these guys, sign ad dollars? Let's go, for instance, Zion Williamson. We knew about him way before he went to Duke.
Yeah, when he was 16.
If he was able to make money off sponsors and some random league, he would have did it besides going to Duke because he would be making money and he'd be a guy that he'd be establishing his own brand.
And you could even argue that the competition will be better if the top players are playing there.
Exactly. So that's the thing. But in the NBA, we're going to have high schoolers going to the league soon anyway, so that's not going to be a big deal in the NBA that much because the top guys are just going straight to the league. But just in general, there's going to be someone creating a league in both revenue-sharing sports and say, hey, you guys should come out here and make more money here than you would in college. And that's coming sooner than later.
Jamieson, do you think that Jong returns to UNLV or stays in the transfer portal?
That's a good question. I think he stays in the transfer portal because, one, there's still a lot going on recruiting-wise. There's still guys out there, a lot of guys. There's a lot of seniors unsigned, a lot of JUCO guys out there. I think Otzelberger is trying to get his own guys. That's the one thing people got to realize. A coach wants his own guys that he has a feel for. So even though he did retain some good players, he wants to have his own imprint on this roster, especially with the salary he's making and some of the expectations he's going to have. So, yeah, it's going to be fairly interesting. But I do think there's a lot of talent out there, and he should be able to get a decent roster for year one.
Well, from what I'm hearing, some of the people that he has picked up, they have a lot of shooters out there, but not exactly the best athletes that can play defense. Is that a smart move?
Well, that's the way he coaches. He coaches that, pace and space, a lot of threes, and we kind of knew that coming in that was going to be the thing.
Which is fine in the Summit League.
Yeah, but at the same time, he does have a successful record there, but that's the way the game is going. Like, that's the way the three ball, shooting a bunch of threes, that's where it's going. I'm not a huge fan of it. At the same time, I get what he's trying to do. But, again, to your guys' point, you got to have some athletes that can play defense. You have to have a defensive scheme in place as well. And that's something I worry about. What's going to be the defensive scheme? Because in the Mountain West, there's you can score 70, 80 points, but there's too many good coaches in this conference that can scheme against you. So if you're going to get 70 and 80, you're going to get 80, 90, and that's not a good situation.
All right, let's say that Mike Miller was head coach right now of UNLV. What would the recruiting situation look like?
Oh, well, all the kids would have stayed.
Yeah.
And they would have, let's just say R.J. Hampton that just reclassified, he'd be coming on board. So you have like a top 10 point guard in the class that's just coming aboard. So, yeah, it would be really good times. Like, it'd be very, very good times. With other guys coming, you'd have Jalen Green committed already. It would be very, very good. But unfortunately, that's not the case. It wasn't the right time, but Mike Miller is eventually going to be the coach at Florida. It may not be next year, it may not be 2 years from now, but eventually he'll be the head coach at the University of Florida. Yeah,
and I have a feeling that he is going to be successful wherever he goes. It's just a feeling that I have. If he works with his brother, I think they are going to win. They're certainly going to get the talent, and I think he is a capable coach, and I think he will have a good relationship with his players, just like he does at the AAU level and just as he did as an assistant coach. So I think it'll work out. Okay, so here's the most important question of this interview for Jamieson Welsh. Can you do me a favor, and can you help me out? What can you do to pull some strings for me to get me a mini-signed TJ Otzelberger basketball? Can you get that for me?
Not trying to be funny, but why would you want that?
I want to hang it up in my wall, and I think it's going to be – look, when he wins the national championship in 2 years, that's going to be worth something.
We've discussed this off air. He wants to throw darts at it.
No, that's not true.
That's the conversation that we've had. He wants to create a voodoo doll out of his TJ Otzelberger signed basketball.
Don't listen to JD. That's not true.
No, I would.
It wasn't darts. It was syringes. That's what I was going to throw. Yeah.
You can have Brian in the athletic department don't like
diabetes
ball. Have someone else write the athletic department, and they'll send you that, or you can go pick that up. Have JD write, or I'll write the athletic department to get you something like that.
Good. I appreciate that. Hey, I'm serious. I want one of those basketballs.
Solution.
I want one of those basketballs because
you can cut it open and you can put hard-boiled eggs in there, and you can eat different types of meals on a consistent basis.
I was hanging out with Anderson Hunt the other day, and I asked him that question, and he almost spit laughing when I asked him that. He thought it was very fun.
It's a very odd question, Brian. It really is.
So instead of Mike Miller and five-star recruits, we've got TJ Otzelberger, shooters that can't play D, and signed mini basketballs.
Look, I want to give this guy a chance.
Got it.
Okay. For the record, though, I want to say this on the air now that we have Jamieson on. I have emailed the sports information director at UNLV 5 times in the last 3 weeks. I've tried to get TJ Otzelberger on the show. No response. I tried to get Desiree Reed-Francois on the show because they put out a press release saying that they're changing where the media section is at the Thomas and Mack Center, and they're trying to get students closer to the court. Not a good thing if students don't show up, but I hope it works out. I tried to get Francois. I didn't even get a response. I've also put out a request because apparently Andre Agassi and his foundation are going to be working with the UNLV athletic department. And I tried to get him to come on through UNLV. Not even a response. Today I sent them another email, the same person, another email asking them and saying, hey, what's going on here? We just interviewed, the creepy porn lawyer. I had to call him that once in the show. And, can you guys defend yourself? Could we get I can't even get a response from UNLV, let alone a no.
Avenetti's definitely listening. You're going to hear about that.
I mean, it's insane. Yeah, interesting to say. Look, I've always gotten responses from them. They haven't always said yes to me, but I can't even get a response from the UNLV athletic department. So I don't know, Jamieson. What do you recommend?
What about your BFF, Andy Grossman? Have you tried emailing him?
Obviously, that's who I'm talking about. He's the sports information director and all. Yeah. I mean, who else do I call? I mean, I don't know what that's his job, right? I don't know what else. I'm not trying to bash anybody here, but it's a little frustrating. We do a show here, whether you like it or not. We criticize UNLV when we think it's appropriate. We are all behind. At least let me put it to you this way. I have nothing against TJ Otzelberger. I'm behind him. I want them to win. I want him to win. Nothing against him, but we're straight shooters. We call it like it is on this show.
I would love to find out how he plans on building his team and why.
Yeah, well, it's hard to do when we can't get him on the show.
It's very difficult.
I tell you what, I'm glad we get Jamieson Welsh on the show every week because he is a wealth of information. Jamieson, fantastic job as always, my friend. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on, and we will catch you next week, okay?
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Jamieson.
There's Jamieson Welsh from Drive Time Sports, our Hoops Guru. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, you're not going to believe what a fan did at a Chicago Cubs game. We're going to talk to Mike Babcock from TMZ Sports about that. Coming up next on the Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN.